Well, it's Tuesday, so let us wage righteous war on crap drivers everywhere. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au, the place where Aussie new car buyers save thousands off their next new cars. Hit me up on the website for that. Now let us talk about stress. Stress and driving go together, I guess. Certainly there seems to be enough of it about. But what happens when you get overstressed and you're driving in this sort of fast-flowing context, kind of like I'm doing now? I'd suggest to you that it is completely counterproductive, but there is a couple of weapons that you can deploy, should you so choose. Let's talk about them. It's essential to monitor yourself for stress when you drive, because it's absolutely no good to let stress get on top of you, because then, in a very real sense, the horse is in charge of the jockey, and that never ends well. So the first thing I'd strongly suggest you do whenever you're driving in this sort of fast-flowing context is have a think about how hard you are gripping the wheel. Stick with me here, there's absolutely a point to this. There's been a lot of sort of physiological and cognitive research done about the effects of stress on people with occupations like pilots, where it really matters. And one of the interesting findings that flow from that is that our stress response, apart from being hormonally sort of driven, cortisol and noradrenaline and all of that stuff, shrinking your peripheral vision down and all of that associated sort of physiological results, one of the things that happens to you when you get too stressed is you just develop the death grip on the steering wheel. And if you sort of look down one day and think about how you're grabbing the steering wheel, if your knuckles are white and you really are pressing hard with your fingertips onto that rim, it's time for you to reprogram. And one of the interesting things that piloting research revealed was that you can undo the stress reaction by undoing the grip. So if you notice yourself getting into this mode, it might be at a driver training day where you're sort of punting pretty hard on a track and you want to learn to go faster. You're trying to get a better firmware upgrade result for yourself, if you like, between your ears. You can hold yourself back with the stress response, because stress doesn't help. Stress is good, I guess, if you're still a primitive human on the Serengeti and you're walking along and one day two sort of angry dudes jump out with pointy sticks and they want your resources and your woman. The death grip and the balled fists and the noradrenaline cortisol response, that's kind of helpful then. But in driving, where there's such a great cognitive demand, working memory is so easily overloaded when you're driving towards the limit of your own ability, that I'd suggest undoing the stress response will allow you to make better decisions and also to perceive the world around you better than otherwise you would in a highly stressed state. So that's a good trick, and it really does work. You should give it a go one day in a controlled environment where it's safe to do so. If you feel that grip coming on the steering wheel, the white knuckle thing, just wind it back, let go. In particular, let the grip on your little fingers, your pinkies, let that go, and that will wash away some of the stress that is occluding your ability to make good decisions and perceive the world around you. And the other thing I'd strongly suggest you monitor yourself for is when you're in these sort of winding roads like I'm driving on now. This is a road I use all the time, I'm very familiar with it. But in unfamiliar territory, maybe it's raining, maybe you're pressing on a little bit harder than you might. If you're in that situation, the obvious thing to do is to wind it back and just go a little bit slower where it's not so stressful. But if you want to walk a little bit closer to the limit of your own ability to drive the car in a safe and controlled way, then one of the other things to watch out for is when you're driving around a bend a little bit harder than otherwise you might. You can see people doing this all the time. They'll tilt their head more and more and more. The harder they want the car to turn, the head will go over like this. It's very easy to see if you're following someone. And this is easy to understand as a physiological reaction, but it really is crap from the point of view of car control. So what you got to understand is that when you learn to walk, and then you learn to run, and then you learn to get on a scooter, and then you learn to get on a bicycle, you learn one thing, and you learn it way down in that sort of spatial perception, how do I move through space and time, part of your brain. You learn that you lean where you want to turn. So if you're turning right and you're running away from that bad dude with the pointy stick who wants your resources and your woman, or you're just running, you're playing football, or you're just playing with the kids when you're a kid, you want to go right, you lean your head hard right. If you want to go left, lean your head hard left. And this message is reinforced when you get up on two wheels on a pushy and you're cycling from A to B, and you just want to make that happen. You want to turn as hard as you can. You have to lean. If you're running and you're cycling and you don't lean, you fall over. It's all kind of very embarrassing, but a powerful learning experience, and it is hardwired at a deep fundamental level into each of our brains. So here's how this plays out in practice. You'll be driving along, perhaps in the wet, in a stressful situation on a bendy road, and you might tip the car into a bend a little harder than normally you would. And all of a sudden, you're in this overloaded situation where the car's not turning enough, and your instinctive reaction is to tilt your head over to get that car to come around. And it doesn't help. What in fact it's going to do is destroy your perception of the cornering process, because that remarkably well evolved accelerometer between your ears is going to give you mixed messages when you incline your head at an angle to the bend. You can confirm this for yourself by having a bit of a crack on a familiar bend one day, and then just in the middle of the bend slowly rotate your head around to lean in the direction of the bend. It's really not going to help. So these are two tricks you can play. If you've got a favourite bit of road and you test yourself on it from time to time, you get in touch with the flowing nature of the cornering process, and you just re-familiarise yourself with those skills that you need to drive in a competent way around a bend. If you practice these things, reducing the grip and then keeping your head dead upright as you proceed around a corner, just like this, it's not really that hard. You have to unwire the cornering circuit from your brain that you've had since you were a kid for driving, but leave it there for all those other things. And then once you can do all of that, undo the grip and keep your head upright, it's remarkable how much more clarity there is in the whole driving process. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope that has maybe helped you fire a shot at some crap driver in your midst. You might be able to metastasize this information across from one mind to another like a kooky Vulcan mind meld. You never know. I'm John Cadogan. Thanks for watching.